All right. How's it going, Charlie?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks, dude. You?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. It's very nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks again for doing this. I've been a massive fan of the show since it came out in 2015. I was in high school. I was 16 years old, and I watched every single episode on my iPad. Like every day, I would wake up and I would watch an episode of Daredevil because it was so
Nice,
good. So
nice.
I'm really happy the show's back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Me too. I appreciate that.
Does it feel kind of surreal to be back as
Yeah,
Daredevil?
yeah. I mean, I'm still pinching myself about it. I really am. I genuinely never thought that we'd be back making the show. Certainly not in a kind of ongoing capacity. So, yeah, I'm just trying to relish it as much as possible and just enjoy every moment. It's such a gift of a job. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And when the show was coming out, you've talked a lot about how this was going to begin with a very traumatic event right at the top of the first episode. Then we all found out what that was, which was Foggy being killed. It's still a very tough pill to swallow for all of us fans who connected with the character so deeply. Is it still hard for you to sort of come to terms with that decision
It
being made, both for
is. It
Matt?
is. It's
Yeah,
sad, and it's sad. It's hard when you just think that, there's so much material that we don't get to have. There's so much. There's so much. Um, there was so much lovely storytelling between those two friends. And it was also other than Eldon being, embodying the role so beautifully and bringing so much kind of life to it and humanity and stuff. It was also a great device to really get into the mind of Matt Murdock and really see how you know him being who he is, how it affects the people around him. So it's tremendously sad. I understand the need. After you're going to come back, if you're going to bring a show back after 6, 7 years, obviously you got to come back with a bang. Got to shake things up a bit. You want the audience to know that they're not safe in this world. That at any given moment, the rug can be pulled out from underneath you. But that was, as you say, as a tough pill to swallow.
I will say it does bring the character in a very interesting position, especially right after Foggy's heart stops beating. I think
Yeah,
Daredevil
and
pretty
it's
much
a
writes
great
his new kill.
catalyst.
Yeah,
From a story point of view, it's a great catalyst for the season. And for Matt, to bring us up to date in terms of where Matt's attitude is going forward.
definitely. Like, how did you want to sort of approach that specific moment for Matt and Daredevil, especially if like we see him in a position that we've never seen before, like completely vulnerable.
Yeah. The interesting bit was the period of time after once we jump forward 6 months, the begin near the beginning of the first episode. The journey then really is Matt's journey at least is that he's made a commitment to his in honor of his best friend to give up Daredevil entirely. And it's really what people call a living amends. Like you can't make amends to that person face to face because they're not here anymore. So you make amends by living your best life in honor of them, right? And so he makes that commitment. And then the journey of that season is either the evolution or the devolution, however you want to look at it, back into the suit. Um, and that was what was fun to play with because on the one hand, in those few episodes before he suits up, I think it's episode 6, in those few episodes, on the one hand, he's living his best life because he's not out all night fighting bad guys. So he can have a girlfriend, he can go to restaurants, he's not beaten up, he's getting sleep. He's doing what he loves and making a difference as a lawyer again, and all of those things. So in some ways, his life is working, and there is a sense of kind of integrity to his opinion of himself that I think is significant. And having a real relationship for the first time, maybe ever, is wonderful, and it was fun to play with that with Matt, this character, and to explore that. On the other hand, he's denying an essential part of himself. He's denying this alter ego, which is as much a part of his truth, if not the primary truth of his life. And so there is still this pull within towards something that he's trying to deny. It's always going to be one of the most interesting things to witness with Matt Murdock, that pull in two different directions. It's always going to be, I think, has to be at the crux of this character. So it's really fun to play with and explore.
I think that's what I found interesting is trying to see exactly, how he's going to come back as Daredevil because
Yeah.
he's trying for a long time to stay away from it, but he's crawling close, he's inching closer and closer to becoming Daredevil again. I think in the fifth episode, there's this catalyst where, okay, he's probably going to come back as Daredevil sooner than later.
Yeah. And often what brings him back is rage. What often brings him back is the building of rage and the building of the inability to act based on a feeling of injustice. What was fun about this season is what brings him back to the suit is actually an emotional crumbling. He when he goes to Frank's and Frank really makes him see that it's undeniable that he's on a collision course with himself and there's nothing's going to stop it. And when he realizes that, he crumbles, and crumbles because he knows he's going to break the most important promise he's ever made. And it was fun to see. It was fun from to when I've been playing this character for so many years now and trying to find new ways in which to explore, you know, his the internal struggle. It was fun to have him put back on the suit after a collapse rather than a build.
Were there also a lot of discussions in mirroring your story and going back to Daredevil as Fisk, who's trying to keep his life away from crime as he enters politics, but both of these stories mirror each other? Were there any discussions with the showrunners as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always on people's minds, including my mind and Vincent's mind. We're always, and it's ironically, if you write these characters well, if the writers, which they do, write the characters well, you almost don't have to think about it. The parallels are so stark, it's so obvious. And we've always said, whenever we've made this show, we've always said how these two they are cut from the same cloth. Like they are. What is it in Harry Potter where the wands, like the sister wands or whatever I don't watch Harry Potter, so I'm not really sure, but I know that like I'm reading it to my daughter at the moment, so I know that like each wand has its sibling wand, or it's right, and they are like the same, but they're in opposition to one another. And I think of Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock as the same. They are in any given moment, you they are both capable of doing the exact same thing. And the line between really the motivation behind it is so razor thin.
And then, of course, at the end of the eighth episode, you take a bullet for him, which was a pretty unexpected
Yeah.
moment. Can
Yeah.
you talk about like how you approach that specific moment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of simple. For me, that's kind of simple. Matt he doesn't ever believe that a human being has the right to take another human being's life. It doesn't matter who it is. And if you believe that to the extent that Matt does, it's just instinct. It's just instinct. It's preserve. It's this preservation of life is um uh like an instinctual habitual response that is it's not actually in that moment. It's not a morally. I don't believe it's a morally good decision. It is an instinct. The other thing is, which I think is probably slightly also adds to it and makes it more interesting, is that Matt also does not. More than anything, he cannot allow Wilson Fisk to be a martyr. And with enough people believing in him and enough people believing that he is the answer, his death causes a bigger problem for everyone. And so what I think sometimes Matt thinks it's not so much him against Fisk as it is the system against Fisk. And he wants the system to win. It's so important to him that the system wins. It's so much better for New York if the system wins. It's so much better for New York if the people see what he sees. And that's the path to healing as a society. And so with that in mind, he can't allow for him to die. You know, it's an irony, but it's a fun irony. And I think it works both ways in an odd kind of paradox. They both need the other one to be. They need each other weirdly. Yeah, it's basically the story of a codependent relationship.
Actually, my favorite scene of the season is the conversation that you have with Poindexter in prison in the eighth episode. Because for the
Oh
first
yeah,
time,
that was a fun scene. That yeah,
yeah, because for the first time since Foggy's death, he directly confronts his killer and has a
yeah,
very difficult time being just in the same room with him because it's bringing him so many difficult emotions. Was that something that you sort of wanted to approach when doing that scene?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember that day really well. Um, I remember that day really well, and just being and thinking uh, the Matt's goal in this scene is to walk out of there having not killed him. I've got to get through this moment having not killed him. That's the challenge. Um, and so that was really fun. In one, I don't think they used it. I can't remember. I'm not sure, but I don't think they used it. But in a couple of the takes, I like headbutted him. Um, uh, yeah, it was fun. It's great, and also Wilson's great, and so it's so fun to play with him and in that stuff.
Wait, you headbutted him for real?
Yeah, I mean not hard, but I fucking sorry swear but I put my head in his face. Um, it was intense.
I mean, the emotions in that scene were pretty intense.
Yeah,
So it's no secret that the show did have some creative overhaul during the strikes, and I think you did hit the goal mine to get Justin Benson and Aaron Morehead to direct a couple of episodes because they're just fantastic. I've seen most of their movies and I just loved everything that they've made. They're very creative as well,
yeah,
especially how they elevate the aesthetic and themes of the show. I'm wondering if you could talk about working with these two amazing filmmakers who have a very deep reverence to Daredevil.
yeah. I mean, we're so lucky to have those guys. I mean, we're so lucky. And look, when we finished the season, I actually wrote an email to the big bosses at Marvel, and because at that point we knew we were going to do season two, and I wrote an email and I put three or four names on the email. Just said, look, I believe these people have become imperative to us. And the names were, included Justin Aaron, Phil Silvera, maybe a couple others, but they're, we're just there's no other way to say it. We're just so they are other than being just the loveliest two people. They are so inventive, so collaborative, so talented. And you just show up every day on set and just know that whatever you bring, they're going to make it better, and that you feel like you're swimming with the current, which is like very freeing because it really when you have that level of trust, it makes you a better actor because you feel like you can be bigger and bolder and try more things because if it doesn't work, they're not going to use it, or they're not going to try and manipulate it to make it work or something. They'll just, do you know what I mean? So it's like we're incredibly fortunate to have them. And I hope as long as we keep making the show, I hope that they are our go-to directors.
And now that you've played the character for about a decade now in both various film and television series, is there something that you would say that that you hold on to the most as an actor in your experience in developing Daredevil for the past 10 years?
Hey, can you like, explain what you mean by that? I'm not sure I quite understand.
Yeah, is there something that you would retain the most as an actor in your experience developing Daredevil?
Daredevil's a really interesting one for me. Of all the parts I played, he's probably the furthest away from who I am as a human. And there's so many elements to him that I just knew nothing about coming into it. I wasn't a comic book fan. I know nothing about, the American, well, any judicial system, but particularly the American judicial system. I don't have an American accent. I've done no martial arts. I've never lifted a weight. I'm not visually impaired. And I didn't grow up on comics either. So I mean, it was such when 10 years ago and to this day, the amount of work, the amount of research that went into trying to get to the root of this character was more than I've ever had to do. Um, and so when you're trying to develop a character and you're having to add these elements that don't come naturally to you, that you're having to kind of like quote unquote act, the worry, the concern is that the authenticity or the truthfulness won't be there in the performance, that it will feel like a performance, it will feel acted. Um, and so I don't know if this quite answers your question, but the thing that has been such a struggle, but also so rewarding and challenging is to try and build a character, but make it feel as close to you as you can, so that it presents as honest, as authentic, basically. Um, I did a movie last year where I'm playing, basically myself, a very similar, like a British, like 40-year-old who's on holiday kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, and so the acting required is a very different, for me, it's a very different type of acting. It's about, I don't have to think about, I just have to show up and tell the truth, and try and make sure that the scenes are what the writer intended, like the elements of the feelings of the scenes, the intentions of the scenes are present. Playing Daredevil, of course, there's like all these other elements on top of that I have to think about, and so it's just a really and it's the constant struggle. Like every often I'll leave work and I'll go, I hope that I didn't do too much acting today. I hope that with all of the stuff that was going on, that I still presented Matt Murdock as a human. That's one of the things I'll take away, I guess.
Awesome. Well, it was really great talking to you today, Charlie, about your work on Daredevil, Born Again. Congratulations. This show is incredible. It's been
Oh man, thank you,
one of my
Max. Thank you
favorite
so
shows.
much.
One of my favorite shows for the past 10 years, and I'm so happy he's back. I really can't wait for season two. And I
Nice
hope
one,
you have
nice
a
one. I
very good,
appreciate you, Max. Thank you so much, man.
I hope that you have a very good rest of your day.
Yeah, likewise. Bye.
Thank you.